Every day, we see the darker side of the world around us. We witness how people can hurt others in ways that are hard to understand. It's a sad part of life, but it's something we can't ignore. As someone who dives into the world of crime, I'm here to share the most shocking stories and try to understand what drives people to do such things. I'm Michael, and today, I've got another unreal true crime story for you. It was a cold, quiet night, but something terrifying was about to happen deep in the woods near Altrincham. A car pulled over on the empty road. The driver, a 19-year-old, stepped out looking around nervously. In the passenger seat was Alex, just 15, completely unaware that this night would change everything. What started as a secret between them had spiraled into something dangerous. Trust was broken, emotions were out of control, and within minutes, things would take a deadly turn. But how did it get to this point? And what really happened that night? Stay with me as we uncover the shocking truth behind this chilling case. The Rada family lived a peaceful life in the village of Tabley, nestled in Cheshire, a county in northeastern England. Their home was filled with warmth, shared by Lisa, her husband Adam, and their only child at the time, Adam Jr. For years they had dreamed of expanding their family, but it wasn't until nearly a decade later that their wish finally came true, an event Lisa described as nothing short of a miracle. On March 5, 2004, their second son, Alexander Rhoda, was born. From the start, he was affectionately called Alex. As he grew, Lisa noticed that Alex had unique interests that set him apart from other children. He loved playing with her makeup and handbags, showing a natural inclination towards things that were considered more delicate. At 13, Alex gathered the courage to share a deeply personal truth with his parents. He was gay. Lisa and Adam had long suspected this and welcomed his revelation with open arms, offering unwavering support. Adam, however, did feel concerned, not about Alex's identity, but about how society might treat him. Unfortunately, his fears weren't unfounded. At school, Alex faced taunts from certain classmates, particularly from boys who struggled to accept those who didn't conform to their expectations. Yet Alex remained composed. Unlike many his age, he never felt the need to hide who he was. At Holmes Chapel Secondary School, Alex built a close circle of friends, mostly girls. At least 8 of them were his best friends. They adored him and embraced him wholeheartedly. These friendships became his shield as his friends stood up for him whenever he faced unkind words. With their support, Alex thrived, refusing to let negativity weigh him down. Full of joy, confidence, and enthusiasm for life, Alex was known for his infectious laughter. A bright student, he was also deeply engaged with social media. He loved sharing moments of his life, singing, dancing, and laughing. One of his social media accounts had already amassed more than 4,000 followers. He and his father shared a uniquely close relationship, one that felt more like a friendship. By the time Alex turned 15, he had become incredibly popular, his phone constantly buzzing with messages from friends and admirers alike. But one particular message, received one evening, stood out from the rest. It was from Matthew Mason, an older boy whose online presence had always carried an air of mystery. Something about it made Alex pause. Matthew, from the nearby town of Ollerton, was 19 and the son of a farmer. He had grown up in an affluent and devout household with a sprawling estate worth millions. Every Sunday morning, his family faithfully attended church. In school, Matthew had been known for his calm demeanor, much like Alex. He had also attended Holmes Chapel Secondary before pursuing agricultural engineering. A member of the Young Farmers Organization, he worked part-time as an apprentice mechanic and spent his free time fishing with his father, with whom he was particularly close. At the time, Matthew was also in a relationship with a girl named Caitlin Lancashire. In October 2019, Alex confided in Georgia, one of his closest friends, about the messages he had been receiving from Matthew. Georgia was taken aback. She had known Matthew from school and had never noticed him showing the slightest interest in men, nor had he ever hinted at being bisexual. The situation felt odd, even unsettling. Their worlds were entirely different. Alex and Matthew had never run in the same social circles. Without social media, their paths might never have crossed. Georgia cautioned Alex to be careful. Yet, as the messages continued, Alex couldn't help but feel excited. He added Matthew as a friend on one of his social media pages, and soon, their conversations became more frequent. For Alex, this felt like the beginning of something special, his first experience with love. Alex had never been in a relationship before, and the experience felt exhilarating, like stepping into a completely new world. His friends were thrilled when they learned he was finally exploring deep emotions. At first, the exchanges between Alex and Matthew were harmless, just casual messages. But over time, their conversations became more flirtatious, turning into something more intimate. Matthew complimented Alex on his appearance, and soon they started sharing photos. One night, after having too many drinks at a bar, the 19-year-old made a reckless decision. He sent Alex an explicit photo of himself. According to Alex's friends, he had a habit of not fully grasping the seriousness of situations, often treating them as jokes. So, to some extent, he perceived it as part of a flirtatious game. However, things escalated when Matthew sent a video of himself in a compromising act. As their virtual relationship intensified, Matthew suggested they meet in person, offering to pick Alex up from his house. But Alex refused, explaining that his father wouldn't allow it. Still, they continued exchanging hundreds of messages. Curious to learn more about Matthew, Alex decided to dig deeper into his social media accounts. What he found left him feeling betrayed. Matthew was already in a relationship. The realization sparked a wave of frustration and distrust, making him question everything they had shared. Determined to confront the truth, Alex reached out to Matthew's girlfriend, Caitlin, the same girl featured in multiple posts on his social media. On November 3rd, the 15-year-old messaged Caitlin asking if she was dating Matthew. When she confirmed it, he dropped the bombshell, revealing that he had been involved with Matthew in a secret relationship for the past 2 to 3 weeks. Caitlin was left in shock. Alex didn't hold back. He detailed the explicit exchanges between him and Matthew, even mentioning a conversation where he had tried to set boundaries. He admitted that he had only discovered Matthew's relationship after following him. According to media reports, jealousy played a major role in Alex's actions. An hour after speaking with Caitlin, he confronted Matthew, telling him he had exposed the truth to his girlfriend. His anger and frustration were clear. He accused Matthew of deception, not only towards Caitlin but also towards him. "You have someone who loves you," Alex messaged, "so why did you need to talk to me at all?" He insisted that Matthew come clean because, after 2 years together, Caitlin deserved honesty. However, Alex had already taken it upon himself to reveal the truth. Matthew, coming from a deeply religious and traditional family, was terrified of his secrets being made public. His biggest fear was that Alex would expose him. Panicked, he spoke to Caitlin, denying the accusations and painting Alex as a liar. From that moment, the dynamic between Alex and Matthew took a disturbing turn. Feeling cornered, the 15-year-old threatened to leak the explicit photo he still had of Matthew. According to reports, later that same day, Matthew added Alex as a beneficiary to his bank account and transferred him just over $60. By then, Caitlin had already ended the relationship. Despite the tension between them, on November 9th, Alex and Matthew met in person for the first time and became physically involved. Over the following 2 weeks, their secret relationship continued, and although everything seemed fine on the surface, the payments didn't stop. Matthew wasn't ready for the truth to come out. But on December 12, 2019, everything reached a breaking point. After weeks of threats and pressure, Matthew snapped. That cold, rainy night, he picked Alex up from his house and drove him to a secluded forested area near Altrincum under the pretense of having another intimate encounter. But once they arrived, Matthew unleashed his rage, attacking Alex mercilessly with a wrench he had brought with him. After carrying out the brutal act, Matthew drove to a friend's farm, hoping to eliminate any evidence that could tie him to the crime. As part of his alibi, he then calmly made his way to 2 different bars, meeting up with friends for drinks as if nothing had happened. At one of the bars, he took a selfie and posted it on social media, further solidifying his pretense of a normal night out. Later, in an attempt to make his alibi even more convincing, he snapped a picture of himself lying in bed, smiling with his bare torso exposed. He later sent this image to Caitlin. Sometime during the night, he found Alex's phone lying on the passenger seat of his car. Knowing how much incriminating evidence was stored on the device, he quickly got rid of it. As the night deepened, Matthew made a chilling return to the forest. He dragged Alex's lifeless body to the side of the road and tried to lift him into his Renault Clio. But after several failed attempts, he gave up and left the body abandoned there, walking away without looking back. By this time, Alex's parents were growing increasingly anxious about his disappearance. After failing to reach him, they reported him missing, and soon, police, friends, and family members were desperately searching for him. At exactly 12:35 a.m., a Cheshire police officer sent Matthew a text message asking him to get in touch regarding his missing friend, Alex. It was Alex's mother who first voiced her suspicions about the 19-year-old. By morning, the grim reality unfolded. A group of garbage collectors made a gruesome discovery: Alex's half-naked body, severely disfigured from multiple blows. When law enforcement arrived at the crime scene in the forest, they were met with a horrifying sight. Alex had suffered at least 15 blows to the head in what authorities described as a savage and merciless attack. Matthew never anticipated being caught so quickly. However, a witness had unknowingly sealed his fate. The previous night, someone had taken a photo of a vehicle parked by the roadside. When police traced it back, they confirmed it belonged to Matthew. On December 13th, just before noon, officers arrested him on a nearby highway. Despite his attempt to wash away the evidence, dried blood was still visible on his hands. A search of his car's trunk uncovered a garbage bag containing damning evidence: a green sweater stained with blood, the very wrench used to attack Alex, and a large padded jacket that had belonged to the victim. With overwhelming evidence against him, Matthew was taken into custody and formally charged with the crime. Investigators pieced together the tragic trajectory of Alex and Matthew's relationship, revealing how it had started with intrigue and ended in unimaginable violence. Their digital exchanges had frequently revolved around money, leading to a final, fateful conversation just moments before Alex's brutal murder. Records showed that after the first payment, Matthew had sent Alex a total of $2,500, allegedly as payment for their encounters and to ensure his silence. The last transfer, amounting to $130, was made just 5 days before the crime. Adding another layer to the tragedy, it was revealed that shortly before his death, Alex had an unsettling encounter with Matthew's mother. She had unexpectedly walked in on them during an intimate moment. Disturbed by what had happened, Alex later messaged a friend, confiding his discomfort and even detailing the physical pain he felt after the incident. In a joking manner, his friend teased him, calling him a prostitute, to which Alex simply responded by repeatedly mentioning money. As the investigation deepened, chilling new details emerged. Matthew's internet search history exposed his dark thoughts. He had researched ways to end someone's life. Among his disturbing queries were, what happens if you push someone down the stairs? As well as searches on poisons and unsolved missing person cases in Cheshire. According to one of Alex's friends, when Matthew initially reached out to arrange their final meeting, Alex had been excited. However, after a second phone call, he began to feel uneasy. He even messaged his friend, asking if it seemed strange that the meetup was in a special secret place. By then, Alex had a gut feeling that something wasn't right. Despite his doubts, he eventually agreed to go, most likely because he needed the money. Moments after getting into Matthew's car, Alex posted one last image on his social media story. It was a simple shot of the car's interior, with a small heart emoji at the bottom. That was the final message he ever sent. Alex's closest friends, who often spoke with him about his new relationship, began to grow increasingly worried as time passed, especially when he kept asking for more money. At one point, Matthew told him that he was struggling financially and could no longer afford to send him anything. However, not long after, he transferred around $800. Alex's friends, whose identities were protected for legal reasons, later told the police that they were fully aware that what he was doing was wrong and had voiced their concerns to him. Despite their warnings, Alex chose to continue down the same path. The trial began on January 25, 2021. At Chester Crown Court, the jury heard that the two had only known each other for a few months but had been engaged in a secret and illegal relationship during that time. According to English law, a relationship between a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old is considered unlawful, as the age of consent is 16. This means that any sexual activity involving a minor, regardless of their willingness, is strictly prohibited. In his testimony before the judge, Matthew admitted to striking Alex with a wrench but attempted to justify his actions, claiming that he had lost control after being blackmailed by the teenager. According to his version of events, he and Alex had first started talking in October 2019 through casual conversations. However, as time went on, Alex allegedly began sending him late-night messages, asking personal and suggestive questions, such as whether he was wearing any clothes. Matthew further claimed that Alex had tried to attack him before his death. He also stated that he had run out of money and had lost friends and family due to the situation. Though he never explicitly stated what the payments were for, he maintained that he was under significant pressure. Additionally, he told the court that he felt ashamed and deeply unsettled after being intimate with Alex. At some point, he said, he realized that what he was doing was wrong, not only because Alex was male, but also because of his age. During the trial, prosecutors presented the full details of Alex's conversations with Caitlin, who had been Matthew's girlfriend at the time. One of the detectives strongly refuted Matthew's claim that the murder was an act of impulse. Instead, he argued that Matthew had deliberately planned the attack. He had lured Alex to an isolated location, believing that no one would find out what he was about to do. During the victim impact statements, Alex's parents, Adam and Lisa, paid an emotional tribute to their son, describing him as a beautiful and loving boy. Lisa spoke through tears, saying that losing a child in such a horrific and brutal way was nothing short of living through hell. She emphasized that Alex had been raised in love, not fear, and had always been proud of who he was. He never had to hide behind a mask or pretend to be someone he wasn't. She condemned Matthew's actions, pointing out that although he had admitted to the crime early in the trial, he still forced their family to endure unnecessary trauma in a desperate attempt to reduce his sentence. According to Lisa, he never once considered the unbearable pain he inflicted on both families. She went on to call him the most selfish, cold, and calculating person she had ever encountered, criticizing his repeated attempts to shift the blame onto Alex and tarnish his name throughout the trial. Adam, on the other hand, remembered his son as a fun-loving, respectful young man who always cared about others' feelings. He admitted that he would never be able to overcome the loss and that their lives would never be the same again. After a trial that lasted a month and more than 9 hours of jury deliberation, the panel rejected Matthew's version of events and found him guilty by a majority verdict of 10-2. As he sat in the defendant's chair, sobbing, the judge delivered the sentencing. Given that he had used a weapon, the mandatory minimum sentence for his crime was set at 25 years. The judge described the killing as a premeditated murder, meticulously planned and executed without mercy. He also noted that while Alex may have initiated contact, it was clear that Matthew not only responded, but actively encouraged a sexual relationship. He pointed out that Matthew was far more experienced and worldly than his victim, who was still young and emotionally immature for his age. Furthermore, he stated that Matthew had carefully orchestrated the situation. While this may not have been his first sexual experience, it was for Alex. The judge concluded that Alex had naively made demands, but those demands stemmed from the sexual offenses committed by Matthew. The responsibility for what transpired did not fall on Alex. In determining the sentence, the judge underscored Matthew's complete lack of empathy and the utter disregard he showed for both the victim and his grieving family. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 28 years before parole eligibility. Despite the severity of the crime, Matthew's legal team filed an appeal against the sentence. On June 23, 2021, after reviewing both written and oral arguments, a panel of 3 appellate judges ruled that the original sentence had been excessively long. They decided to reduce the minimum term from 28 years to 26. Matthew's internal struggle, his inability to accept his own sexuality, and his fear of rejection created an emotional conflict that, when left unresolved, led to unimaginable pain and devastation. In his desperate attempt to escape a reality he refused to face, he destroyed not only his own future, but also the life of someone who embraced his identity without shame or fear.
Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.